by the power of Grayskull. I made up money.
That's a big Twinkie.
It is 2025, and oh my God, yes, we've been gone for the last 15 years.
Feels like it.
But we are back, and first of all, I gotta give this intro a mega intro because everybody that's listened to this podcast before knows how I introduce my main man with the master plan, the E to my PMD, Don, the man that's always dropping the time bombs. He's the one that flies up in the air like you just don't care. It's the one, the only, the macaroni, the man that eats no bologna and says no to Mahoney, my partner in crime, and Smelter.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to put a volume warning on the intro of that thing. Jeez, and bro, say
What?
no to Mahoney. All right, the Police Academy throwback there.
Dude, why did it sound like I was doing like an intro to like a UFC fight?
Yeah, Bruce, whatever. I can't remember his last name, but from UFC, he's gonna have to put a copyright strike on you.
Someone's gonna listen to this and be like, "Hey, that guy Steve Garcia, somebody get him a copyright strike. He's copying our UFC."
I don't know if Bruce Buffer, that was his name, Bruce Buffer. I don't know if he's ever used macaroni in any of his introductions, but you know.
Macaroni. Oh my God.
Macaroni and Mahoney. Yeah.
What? Wait a minute. What happened? Macaroni mixed with Mahoney.
I know, you're like a modern day Eminem over there. You're just making things rhyme that shouldn't rhyme. and adding a pop culture twist to it. And you know, like that takes skill.
Hey kids, check out my new hip hop album. Macaroni. Coming out on cassette tape. Tell your parents. Parental advisory described.
It would be, a family-friendly cassette tape.
Oh man. You know what it is, Eric? I think I'm delusional because I've only had like 3 hours of sleep, and I'm over here sipping on a zero energy sugar monsters. Oh man, I've just been running on fumes all day, but I'm excited to be here talking about pop culture because, you know, guys, Cereal Box Price Podcast is the only podcast that serves you 3 scoops of pop culture. Wow, that sounded like an infomercial. To be saying that again, man.
Good thing we don't have to say that every, what is it on radio? It's like you have to say the WPKW. You know, we'd be like, CBPP, you know.
You're listening to Cereal Box Price in the Morning. Cereal Box Price in the Morning. Cereal Box Price in the Morning. You got to be cool. Oh, man. Oh, that's so good, man. Aaron, what is going on, man? You know, I'm so happy that we're back. And, man, there's so much stuff to talk about because you've been on a Indiana Joyce toy hunting. And I think you've collected every girl piece.
Almost.
Even toys. I think even toys that haven't even been invented yet. You're pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been a year. I mean, like it was, but I mean, when I say that, it's been a roller coaster of a year. I mean, you go from these extreme highs of finding these once in a lifetime toy finds to the extreme lows of, okay, I haven't found anything in 6 weeks. So it's been a roller coaster for sure.
Yeah, dude. And speaking of all the finds you got, you picked up it was a Thundercats lair, right? Like the playset.
Yeah, yeah, that was a big piece last year or early last year. I got that at a toy show from our friend Lucas. Ended up trading a bunch of random stuff that I had towards that, and it was pieces. It wasn't 100% complete, and it was a starter, but it was a Thundercats lair. I mean, how often have you seen a Thundercats lair in person?
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think that I've ever. And for those listening, me and Emery go to the flea markets every summer, and we're toy hunting and digging our hands into dirty boxes with pornos and just all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I've seen I don't think now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I've ever come across like the Thundercats playset layer, like in the flea market, like out in the wild. Like
Right. This was at a toy show, so it was a little bit of a different area, but still just to see one. And Lucas and I connected last year with him and Ben kind of run around and do toy shows and set up and together and whatnot. So it was good to make that connection. And then so the best thing was that I was able to trade my doubles for it, so that really helped. So I traded Lucas a bunch of stuff, and then we figured out a deal from there. And so cost efficient wise, because Thundercats layers, if you haven't looked at price lately, they're quite pricey.
how much is one of those things going for right now? What is it, like $400, $500?
I think that's bare bones.
That's bare bones.
Yeah, that's missing parts, pieces, etc.
Jesus.
That's not including the attack sled. That's not including the gates. That's not including the teeth.
God, man.
Yeah. So
Dude,
I think a complete one runs about 12 to 1500 right now.
that's insane. That's just bare bones. Dude, that's like you taking on a mortgage for your house, or if you put in an extension. Yeah, I want to put an extension to my Thundercats place. Just go to the bank.
Well, in defense, compared to modern playsets, the Thundercats layer playset was a gigantic playset. Obviously, nothing compared to like the flag, but it was one of those playsets, that was much larger scale.
Well, let me ask you this, Aaron. All right, you got the Thundercats. You got the Thundercats playset, but is there another vintage playset that you're also looking to find maybe at a good price, or is there another 80s 90s playset that you want in your collection right now?
Well, I mean that's kind of a two-part question. If there's a playset for a good price, I don't care what it is, I'm buying it. Even if I'm not looking for it. But if the one that's kind of escaped me, and you own this one, but the Boulder Hill from Mask. The issue that I have with that one is that I just don't have the space to display it because I have space danger downstairs. I have the Ewok playset, I have the Technodrome, I have the Sewer playset, I have the Thundercats playset, I have the Mumra's Tomb, I have all these playsets, and we talked about the kind of the space that these things take up, and it's just I don't know if I would have the space necessarily to display another playset.
Yeah, man, I don't know what it is about these 80s playsets, man. They made them so big back then. And you know what's funny about it is that they were really big back then, but now Super 7, they're making them even bigger.
Yeah.
Like Super 7's Thundercats playset, it's a playset where real cats can actually like hide into the man. That's how big the playset is. I kid you not. For those of you guys that are listening right now and have not seen the Thundercats playset, whether it's a video or even a picture from Super 7, look at the size difference from that one compared to the 80s one. And I'm not saying that 80s playsets weren't big back then. I'm just saying that Super 7, the playsets now are getting bigger. You're going to need more space now because you had the Thundercats by Super 7. They did I think NECA did the Turtles layer, like a little small Turtles layer that was freaking humongous.
Mm-hmm.
They already did the TMNT. Well, it's not a playset, but it's a vehicle. I think Super 7 did theirs. NECA did theirs. That thing was super huge. I mean, and G.I. Joe Classifieds. They had the Sky Striker. They had the one from last year. It was a Cobra one.
Yeah, the his tank.
Yeah, the his tank. I don't know.
And-
Things are just getting bigger and bigger, man.
Well, it would be interesting in that aspect in regards to that scale for GI Joe to do a playset. I know there was one guy on Instagram that was 3D printing a 6-inch USS Flag, and I think it clocked in at like 16 or 18 feet long in order to fit. Yeah.
Hold on one second. I'm just trying to map this out on my brain. Dude, was this guy just trying to build a real USS Flag? Like
No, I think he just used the Sky Striker, the HasLab. Actually, no, I don't know if that was 6-inch. I don't think the Sky Striker was 6-inch. The helicopter was 6-inch.
I
don't know if the Sky Striker was classified.
That's insane. All I'm listening in my head right now is Highway to the Danger Zone.
Yeah.
God, dude. That's nuts, man. Well, listen, man. I know you've been on a kick, on a roll, Aaron, because not only did you get the Thundercats playset, but I gotta tell this story. We go to this flea market, Rieta. It's here in Massachusetts, and we get there. It's a nice summer morning. Me and Aaron, we've been running around all through the flea market, sweating bullets, drinking our Powerade and Gatorade, and just storming all the boxes. And out of nowhere, all you hear is Aaron's toy. Aaron's toy, its little beaker starts going off.
The little radar.
A little radar. And all of a sudden, me and Aaron just turn to the right, and there is a man with Ghostbusters Firehouse. And not only does he have the Ghostbusters Firehouse, he has the Ghostbusters Ecto Glows. And oh man. And for those of you listening right now, and if you've been in the wild hunting, you know when you have to like just calm down and approach this really, really calm. Because sometimes the sellers, they might know what they have, and sometimes they might not know what they have. So your little person in your brain has to be like, just pray and be calm. Don't go crazy, because if you go crazy, they're gonna know that it's worth something. And Aaron, tell the audience the little finagling that we did back and forth for you to get these Ecto Glows.
Well, I'm not going to throw out the number. just
it's not.
Just that's not important. But anyway, so we look down, and it was an Egon, and I think it was a Peter. It was 2 out of the 5. And Egon had his mask and his proton pack for the Ecto Glow, and then Peter had the proton pack. So I had those 2, but I didn't have the accessories. So I'm freaking out because you just, again, to Steve's point, you never see this stuff in the wild, right? So we're throwing out a number, and one thing to note about Rieta is that you do not get cell phone reception there. There is 0 cell phone reception. It's in Massachusetts, but it's in this wide open field, and everybody kind of like knows that you just don't get cell phone reception there. And so I throw out a number.
Hold on, I don't
yeah.
cut you off, but when you said that you get no reception, all I'm thinking about is the Alien tagline from the movie poster. You know how it says in space, no one can
hear you scream.
In Rieta, no one can get cell phone service.
And I mean, it really is. I mean, like, it's so weird, though, because you drive not even a 1/10 of a mile one way and you have perfect reception, and a 1/10 of a mile another way and you have perfect reception. So I don't know what it is about that open field. Maybe there's a UFO buried underneath of it or something blocking. Anyways, but so I asked, I said, well, how much do you want for it? And he says, well, I haven't looked it up yet. Okay, but he's a seller that's there constantly. He should know that, like, you don't get cell phone reception there. So I threw out a number, and he said it was a fair offer, and he said, well, let me think on it, and what did he say? He said, let me think on it, but I promise I won't sell it to anybody else for less than that.
Yep.
So Steve and I walk maybe, I don't know, 10 steps away, kind of defeated. And I think to myself, I was like, let me give this one more crack, and I walked up to him and I increased my offer. And I said, well, will this get the deal done? And to both, I think, Steve and I's surprise, he said, yes. He said, it's done,
Dude,
and
and just for everybody listening right now, like, now this is like Aaron going twice, right? And the third, we're not gonna say the number what it was, but when Aaron threw out the number, I just looked at Aaron. Aaron looked at me. There was like this silent pause. It was like we're in a movie, and everything just stopped because we're about to get not only the Firehouse, but the Ecto Glows. And for those that don't know or don't collect real Ghostbusters, the Ecto Glow figures were like kind of like the last figures in the line. And they're very sought after because they're glow in the dark. They're kind of like translucent. They have like their masks. And if you guys never seen them, just look them up. Real Ghostbusters. My mind just went blank right now.
no,
Real Ghostbusters Ecto Glow. Sorry, everybody. I'm sipping over here on my zero sugar, on my 3 hour.
maybe you should have got the one with sugar. But yeah, it was just one of those deals that was meant to happen, and it happened, and we found something, and we both ran back to the car and put the stuff in the car. And it's funny though, like yeah, we're floating on this cloud, but then whenever you're at the flea market, you throw whatever your amazing find is, just you throw it in the car, and then you get back out there because other people are unloading, other people are doing different things. So but yeah, that was one of the things that I think was one of the biggest finds of last year, was just those Ecto Glows, because you just don't see them, and if you see them, they don't have the accessories. I completed my set, so I bought Ray off of eBay, I think after that experience,
Right.
because Ray was the only one that I was missing. And but they never have their masks, they never have their backpacks.
Yep.
And one of the things that these didn't have, unfortunately, were the small glow in the dark ghosts that came with them. It was kind of like a revamp of the original ghosts that came with the original Real Ghostbusters, but they glow in the dark. So those go for stupid money, because again, as we know, in toy collecting, all of the little accessories that you had are what's worth money now.
Yeah, the crazy thing about it, Aaron, is that maybe, was it 4 or 3 years ago when we were at Hollis, that Dave ended up finding one Ecto Glow.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ended up giving it to me, but I knew that you were missing some of the Ecto Glows. And I was like, here you go, Aaron, like, grab this Ecto Glow. And it's, the funny thing about it is that Dave, when he gave me the Ecto Glow, and I'm like, huh? He's like, here you go, Steve. And I'm like, Dave, do you know what this is? Because, like, our friend Dave has a toy store in New Hampshire called Finders Seekers, for those listening. And, like, we've been friends for, like, the last 5 years, all three of us, me, Dave, and Aaron. And usually we get a lot of stuff from Dave at the flea market, and he gives us really great deals. And all three of us are pretty knowledgeable on the things that we like, but I think like this time, I think Dave was like, what are you talking about? It's just a regular Ghostbuster figure. I'm like, no, Dave, this is not a regular Ghostbuster figure. This is an Ecto Glow, all right? This is an Ecto Glow. It glows in the dark. But yeah, I ended up giving you that one. And now, is your set complete now?
I have all 5 figures, because it was the 4 main Ghostbusters and then Lewis Tully. So that was, they were prototyping making a Janine for that line, and they were prototyping making an Ecto 1 that would have glowed in the dark too. But
what?
Yeah, there was.
Hold on, Aaron. I never knew this. Wait, Kenner was planning to make a glow in the dark Ecto 1?
Yep.
Dude.
Yep.
All right. I'm just going to put this out in the universe right now. Super 7, Mondo, Ramen, NECA, Premium DNA, whatever, any third party company, any person who's listening right now who's a toy designer, please give us an Ecto 1 glow in the dark. Oh my God, that would be freaking amazing. I'm having a nerdgasm right now. Somebody hand me a tissue.
So yeah, they were. I mean, they planned on it, but I think it just was, you know, the end of the line. Ghostbusters was phased out. Whatever new line was phasing in. But yeah, I feel like that's something that isn't done currently with figures anymore, is the glow in the dark aspect of things. I feel like as a kid, whether it was a cereal spoon or whether it was something or color changing or whatever,
Right.
you know, we had the color changing things, the glow in the dark things.
Yep.
And it's funny because down in the basement, you know, like if I'm doing something, I think my wife Joy did this the other day. She was putting something downstairs or looking for something, and then she turned off the light, and then she saw the things kind of glowing in my collection, because I have, you know, the Ecto glows, but then I have Toxic Crusaders, and then I have, you know, the Captain Planet, and then
that's so badass.
you know, but like, yeah, like things just, and then I think I have a Ghostbusters logo that was a Build-A-Figure thing that glows in the dark, but they just, modern toys, they just don't have those same qualities anymore. And I mean, it's not like it's more expensive to do that, I'm sure, but it's just, I don't know, like I would like if modern toys, like, could you imagine if they made a, I don't know, a wrestler that glow in the dark, or a G.I. Joe Classified that glowed in the dark, or maybe a new NECA turtle like that was like covered in ooze and glowed in the dark. You know, you just don't see that anymore.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? You're right about that. I don't know what it is about, like, for example, I know that Super 7, they re-released, well, not really re-released, they did their own version of the Silverhawks.
Mm-hmm.
But Brian Flynn, who runs Super 7, he was explaining that the reason why the first versions weren't metallic, because remember in the 80s of the Silverhawks, they had that real metallic kind of feel, that like chrome, whatever. For the Super 7 ones, they didn't have it. And then people were complaining about it, that people still ended up getting the Silverhawks figures. And then 3-4 years later, guess what happens? They end up making the ones that everybody wanted, Super 7. So
yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. As toy collectors, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and a lot of like YouTube videos, and I'm understanding more now the process of making toys, like the tooling, you know, like having it shipped out to China, whatever company that has to like manufacture it, the painting aspect of it, a lot of that chrome parts, like, you know, mask, and we're gonna talk about mask in a little bit. You know, those vehicles had really real tires, real like chrome parts, and you know, just learning about like how expensive it is to just make a toy, just make one action figure. I never knew how expensive it is, but yeah, man, I don't know, like it will be cool just to get like, I don't know, like Ecto glows again. Because I know Mondo's re-releasing. Did you see that, Aaron? Mondo's doing real Ghostbusters figures, and they're expensive. And I know the internet was going wild of how expensive they were. I think Mondo, they're re-releasing. It's a Peter Venkman with a Sam Hain. I know they're doing the Boogeyman with Egon, and I know that Mondo, what they're trying to recreate the opening scene of real Ghostbusters, when they're all together and they're zapping all the ghosts into that one trap. They're trying to make all, which, hey, that's freaking awesome. But at $200, and I know some people listening right now are going to be like, Steve, it's Mondo. It's a premium toy collection line. Like, come on, man. And it's all details. Yeah, I get it. I understand it's Mondo. And for those of you that don't know, Mondo used to make posters before we started making action figures. And not only did they used to make posters, But then Mondo, they ended up falling out, and most of the artists that were working for Mondo ended up moving off and doing other things. So that's a little history lesson for those that don't know. Mondo they used to do posters before they got into toys. But yeah, I don't know. Like, what do you think? What do you think about those $200 Mondo real Ghostbusters figures there, Aaron? Do you think $200 is a lot of money just for like that figure?
Well, from what I see, it looks like you said, they're somewhat of like a 2-pack.
Yeah, it's a 2-pack,
I'm looking
yeah.
at the San Diego Comic-Con photos right now. I've seen the figures, but I was just curious what the packaging looked like. So it looks like Peter and Sam Hain, like you said.
Right.
It looks like Egon and the Boogeyman.
Right.
I see a shadow with one of the figures that looks like the Sandman. Maybe it's Winston with the Sandman, and I'm not sure who the last one is, but I mean, at the $200 price point, I'm looking at what you got. You got a Sam, like the Sam Hain. You got 3 different heads. You got 2 different hands. It comes with a mini Slimer. It comes with a different head for Peter. Looks like you got a trap. One of the cool things that I like about this, though, is that the trap has a mini Sam Hain that fits in the trap. So it looks like you're capturing Sam Hain.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's really cool. And I hope they did the same thing with the Boogeyman, if I can find that real quick. Because, when you talk about, price points with toys and stuff like that, so they have a small... Yeah. Well, I don't even know. It doesn't look like Boogeyman, but I guess it's supposed to be. It's just like a whatever. But anyways, the price points with toys nowadays, we've talked about this. It's going up and up and up. These toys are not for children. They're toys, right?
They're for us, the grown adult children.
But they're for adults, and
right.
It's geared, like, no kid, no 9-year-old, or even my son, he knows Ghostbusters. We've watched real Ghostbusters, and he likes the new Ghostbusters, movies. But at the same time, I don't know if he would be drawn into this, and especially at a $200 price point. I think it's quality. I mean, it's going with the Mondo name. I know the Mondo posters. I know there's a couple limited edition posters that I would love to have.
Oh yeah, same
again. They were limited edition, and they are insane amounts of money for a poster. But if these are going to be limited edition, which I didn't see that they are, but if Mondo sticks with the limited edition aspect, then I think a lot of people would almost look at this as some sort of an investment opportunity, kind of like the G.I. Joe Classifieds or the HasLabs, or we know people that buy those and they just hold on to them for a couple years and then sell them, or maybe they buy 2 or 3 knowing that they could sell the second or third one to make their money back on the first one.
Well, I gotta say, I'm looking at the Peter Venkman with Slimer right now, and dude, I love the old Kenner line, that's obviously our childhood. But these are the most accurate looking, detailed, real Ghostbusters action figures. The Slimer, and look, I've seen so many Slimer figure toys throughout the years. There's something about, I don't know what it is. I've seen Slimers done by NECA. I've seen Slimers done by Kenner, and every Slimer that I see, it's different. I think the best looking vintage Slimer that I think, in my opinion, looks like, now I'm talking about vintage, it's the old Slimer with the proton pack.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one looks more like the original cartoon Slimer, but now I'm looking at the Mondo one, and they nailed it.
Right.
That looks exactly and Peter Venkman looks exactly, and I remember that Diamond Select, they had a real Ghostbuster figure line, Diamond Select, and those are pretty expensive right now. But if you're gonna waste the money on those, I will tell anybody listening right now, I would definitely get these as opposed to the Diamond Select. And I don't know why, but Big Bad Toy Store, they had the Peter Venkman and the Slimer going for only $101. I'm thinking they were $200, but yeah, it's only $101. So I must have got my pricing wrong. But yeah,
Yeah.
but they're all sold out right now. The pre-sale sold out right now in Big Bad Toy Store. So
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, like, even at $100 price point, I think that's good. I think, again, it'll determine if they're released in limited quantities or not. I mean, if they're limited release, or even if it's like it's only going to be released for 6 months or something like that, I feel like it would be worthwhile. You are right about the sculpt though, because I'm looking at the Slimer sculpt
yeah,
from the Diamond Select toys, and it looks good, but
right.
they really nailed. I think the one Slimer, and it's not even a toy, from the real Ghostbusters. It was I think it was the bubble bath topper or something like that. To me, like, when I was a kid, that topper was like the best representation of Slimer.
I actually have that one in my collection. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, Aaron. Yeah. Actually, you're right. That one does look like a really good that was a pretty good one. All right, I wasn't thinking about that one.
But it's not a toy, and it's a lot big. It's not to scale, right?
Right,
And even
right.
the Slimers that we got, with the, obviously the Green Ghost. I don't think they even called it Slimer in the original. It was the Green Ghost. And then you had the Green Ghost with the proton pack. It was so much bigger than what we saw in the cartoons.
Right. Yeah, these are good, man. I'm not gonna, and I'm sorry we went on a tangent. I know we're talking about Aaron's pickups. From last year, we went to the play sets, and then we got on this real Ghostbusters, Kenner kick. But let's go back to that before we get into one of the main topics that we're gonna get into tonight. But so we got the Thundercats playset layer. We found the Ecto Glows, and I think there was one more, Aaron. I know there was one more thing. Oh, you picked up that G.I. Joe lot from that guy.
Yeah.
There was all those Joes with like all the playsets. I remember that. That was a big lot too you picked up.
Yeah. And I can't remember, like, I apologize if this is a repeat. I don't think we told this story, but yeah.
No, told the story.
Well, there was two different lots. There was the G.I. Joe, the straight G.I. Joe lot, and then there was the G.I. Joe Thundercats lot.
Right.
The straight G.I. Joe lot, that was sheer dumb luck. I don't even know how that happened. So, again, Facebook Marketplace, and we all know Facebook Marketplace is either hit or miss, and
oh God.
you love it, you hate it, whatever, right? So Facebook Marketplace pops up, and I see boxes and boxes of G.I. Joe stuff. And again, I'm not going to leave the price out of it. And I messaged the guy and I said, "Is this still available? Is the price that you're asking for some things or for everything?"
Right.
And he said, "It's for everything." And I said, "Okay." I said, "I'm on my way." I said, I'll be there. And I think it was like 45 minutes away from me. So drove down, and he had it all laid out. And he was like, "Man, I've received tons of messages in that 45 minutes.
That's crazy, man."
And he goes, "But I'm a man of my word. And if you want it, this is what it is. And I just want to get it out of my house." And that's what it was. I think he said his parents had found it, and he wanted to get rid of it. And I said, "Sure." I gave him more than he was asking, because I got there, it was a lot more stuff than I even saw in the photos. And I filled up my entire car, my entire Honda CR-V with G.I. Joe. And
I want the listeners to actually really understand it. See, one thing, me and Aaron, we've been friends for the last 5 years, and what I love about Aaron is that sometimes I'll get these like random phone calls, like, and I pick up, I'm like, "Hey, what's going on, Aaron?" He's like, "Dude, check this out. You're not gonna believe what I'm about to tell you right now." I'm like, "What's that?" "Dude, this guy just sold me like 85 G.I. Joes, 4 play sets, and a ham sandwich." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, again, we're not gonna say the price, but I get these random phone calls or messages, or sometimes Aaron will send me these pictures, and I'm like, what the heck? And he's like, dude, I'm just gonna pick this stuff up right now. Like, and it's crazy because he sent me a picture, and I want everybody to like just have a mental thought picture about this. He sends me a picture. It's the back of his trunk from his car, and Aaron has an SUV. And it looks like he's moving it into a college dorm room, and it's just all boxes of like G.I. Joes. He's building his own army command center right now. I'm just like, holy crap, dude. It was insane. Insane, man.
Yeah,
like,
that'll never happen again.
Yeah, that would never happen. Never.
I mean, one of the pieces that I still have, it was a Crusader still in the box, with all the pieces, the umbilical cord, the figure, everything. I mean, it was insane, and his stuff was all mint. Like he played with it, but he didn't play with it, you know. And then, so that was that one, and then the other one was a guy was selling like a He-Man. I think it was a puzzle, or no, it was a board.
Yeah,
game.
A board.
It was a board game. And I messaged them, and because typically if you have a He-Man board game,
right,
you'd probably had some figures, right? So this was one of those moments where the power of the ask turned out good. So I messaged them and I said, hey, do you have any other figures from this era? And then he sends me pictures of Thundercats,
and then he sends you pictures of his feet.
Oh my god! Yeah. Thundercats with his feet in the photo, and
G.I. Joe
feet in the photo, and
oh man,
those are the best photos, man. When you ask people for photos and stuff, and they got their nasty ass toes in the photo, I send those ones to Dave if I get them, because
Dude, how funny would it be? Is like, hey, you got any photos of the G.I. Joe? And all he shows you is just like a leg. Just one little leg of a Joe. You're just like, oh, I can't wait to see the rest of this Joe.
But yeah, long story short, man, it was a crazy collection. We settled on a price. But again, it was just one of those happenstance moments, right? Like, he was selling this thing, he had this other stuff. He said he was moving, and he just needed space again, and it worked out. But I think it's easy, and I've said this before. It's easy to get frustrated, but since that day, right? I've been in kind of a lull. Like, there hasn't been a find. It's wintertime in New England.
Right.
There's, everybody's kind of hunting and doing the things right now because there's not flea markets, there's not yard sales. But yeah, like, you get in those lulls, and it's like I said, you ride that roller coaster of highs and lows, and you got to take the good with the good and the bad with the bad. But man, those good days when you ask somebody a question, they say, oh yeah, by the way, I have this rare piece and I'm willing to let go of it, and maybe it's a good price, maybe it isn't, who knows, right? But yeah, it's a good day when you actually come across stuff.
You know what, Aaron, there's a story that we have to tell the audience. And speaking of G.I. Joe, should I tell a story about the USS Flag that I saw at Savers?
Absolutely.
All right. First of all, for those of you listening, if you guys have noticed, Savers prices, you're not saving anymore. Those prices, they should change the name from Savers to Unsaved, because spenders. Yeah, you know what? Let's call it spenders, because now what they're doing is they're actually pricing by eBay. And I just saw Pixel Dan do a video. And if you guys check out Pixel Dan, he just did a video of him going to Savers. And what he noticed is that he found some Masters of the Universe figures. And the figures that he bought, when he looked them up online, they were pretty much matched out with what they were. Figures back then were going for $2-3. Now they're going for like $14-12 in a Ziploc bag, which is crazy. So with that being said, I go to my local Savers. I'm walking around, whatever, and right in front of my little eye, right in the front of the exit, What do I see? One of the play sets that I always wanted, the USS Flag. My brother's with me, my brother Ricky, and I'm going crazy. He's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "That's the USS Flag. I want that." Now, again, I'm at Savers, all right? People donate this stuff to them. I call Aaron right away. I'm like, "Aaron, you're not gonna believe this." No, no. You know what it was? I sent you a picture. I remember, Aaron. I sent you a picture, and he's like, "Dude, where's that at?" I'm like, "I'm at Savers. I'm gonna ask how much this thing is going for." There's a little price on it. Now, there was a sticky note. I couldn't see the sticky note from far away because I don't have Superman vision. So I had to call somebody to come over and help me. And when the girl went over to look at the price tag, they had the flag priced at $2,000. That's right, everybody. $2,000 at Savers. And when I called Aaron, Aaron was telling me, "How's that price at $2,000?" Now it's cool, Aaron, because you actually did tell me, like, okay, is it like mint in box? Like, is it never open or open? And what I did notice is that it was open before, and they retaped it.
Right.
Now, the flag, I know it came with a figure. Am I right or am I wrong, Aaron? It came with
yeah, it came with Keel Hall.
Right, right. So here's the thing. They're selling this thing for $2,000. They had it taped up. If you're a collector and you can't open that box to see if it came with the figure and if it came with all the pieces and parts, and you just dropped $2,000 at Savers.
Right.
And by the way, I went on eBay. They had it priced right around like eBay prices. Yep.
Yeah. Let me take my blur off, but yeah.
So, and here's the funny thing about it is that I told the girl that was working there, I was like, "Hey, is there any way that I can speak to your manager about this?" She goes to the, first of all, the manager didn't even want to approach me. She's like, "A toy collector? Oh, you're that guy."
Yeah. So there's the photo.
There's the photo right there.
You see the Santas, you see the flag.
There's the photo right there that I sent Aaron. For those of you who are listening to the audio, Aaron was just showing me the actual picture that I sent him. The girl comes back to me and tells me that the manager's not going down in the price, and I literally told the girl, nobody is gonna pay $2,000 for this thing at a Savers. Guess what? I go back the next day, it's there. A week later, it's gone. Now, do I know if they sold it for $2,000? I don't know. But the funny thing about it is that people who weren't toy collectors, when they saw me go crazy, they were like, "Why is this guy going crazy over a G.I. Joe thing?" I don't know. I had to share that story because that, to me, for me, last year, was one of the biggest finds because I found that at a Savers. At a Savers. Now, Aaron, if they had it for $200, I would have picked that up.
Right.
If they had it for $100, I would have picked it up. But at $2,000, I'm sorry. No spenders. I'm not spending it. So,
Yeah.
just a story that I wanted to tell because to me, that was for me one of the biggest finds for myself because I would have never guessed I would have found that at Savers.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. You got to keep hunting. You got to keep moving. You got to go to shows. You got to check. Because you never know. Like it could be at Savers one day, and it could be a decent price. But I think, and I know we're going off topic, but I feel like we always go off topic, so it's nothing new.
Yeah.
The Google Images, and I can't remember if we've already said this or not, but Google Images is really one of those things that has changed, I guess, the way people set up at flea markets, the way people set up at yard sales,
right?
The thrift stores, because with AI and the capabilities of, I'm going to take a picture of this thing and then it's going to spit back out what it is and when it was made and how much it is. And even if those prices aren't accurate or not, they're still getting some sort of resemblance of, oh, this is really rare, right? Or, oh, this is worth a lot of money. And it's changing the game, that you could take a picture with something on your phone and immediately it'll tell you what it is and how much it's worth. And so with that being said, like the folks that are going through their attics or going through their their basements or whatever, and they're going through their kids' toys, they can now just take a photo of this thing and be like, oh, this is worth money, you know?
Yeah, man. Oh man, I know we've talked about this topic before, and that's just one of the things that just gets to me, because like just seeing the flag there, and I'm gonna tell the audience the play sets that I have. I have the Voltron Castle of Lions play set. I got the Mass Boulder Hill play set. I ended up picking up the Ghostbusters Firehouse from Aaron when we found that lot of the Ecto Glows. So I have that. I have the Turtles Sewer Lair playset. I have the Technodrome. I have the McDonald's old playset from like the late 70s, early 80s. Like I do want to get the Sector's High. That's going to be very hard to get. I do have the Castle Grayskull complete, even with the little guns. Like that took me a while to get, and luckily Dave, our friend, gave me some of the pieces. But there's some places that I want, but I want the Defiant and I want the USS Flag, and just seeing it there and knowing that it was right in front of me and I couldn't pick it up because it was $2,000.
Yeah.
Like, look, I'm a toy collector, guys. I'm always gonna collect toys till the day I die. I don't care. That's just me. I love it. It's my hobby. It makes me happy. We've been doing it for a long time. I love my friends Aaron and Dave that I do it with, and it's not just about toy collecting, it's that we're together having a good time and cracking jokes. That's
Right.
what it's all about. But like, I'm sorry, I'm just not gonna drop $2,000. I'm just not gonna drop $2,000 unless it's a lot of a bunch of toys and a bunch of things for $2,000. But for the flag and the sabers, I'm sorry, man, I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's got to be reasonable, right? Like, I mean, because we discussed that. I mean, what's the price point, right? Like, and again, I bet you they took a photo of it or they scanned the barcode and it said they probably saw a mint in box, unopened version that was selling for $5,000. I don't know. I'm just throwing that number out there. And they took that number and then decided, okay, well, we'll sell it for $2,000 and that'll be a bargain, right? And it's not
crazy, dude. It's
for something that you didn't know if it was complete. I mean, if it's missing that back little railing, that's like, so yeah, I'm looking on eBay right now, and obviously this was back in August. eBay December 19th, one sold 100% complete for $3,200, right?
Jeez.
But that's 100% complete.
Right. That's 100. Right.
There's one railing that is like $300 that's on the back of the thing. It's the tiny railing. There's the figure. There's a ton of small little parts, pieces, clips, etc.
Right.
So like to know if it isn't even complete. So I'm just looking at parts. There's 2 Y pin and 2 deck clips.
Right.
$55. So are all the deck clips there? Are all the Y pins there? And it's just, but again, so to give more context, I saw a lot of animation cells from an obscure cartoon back in the early 90s called Camp Candy. I own one of them. I'm very happy that I have this one because it's a great animation cell. But so it's still currently listed on eBay, and I think it's like $600. I think there's 14 different cells from the show.
Okay.
And it's at a Salvation Army, right? So I messaged Salvation Army, right? And I said, hey, look, would you do? And I threw out an offer. It was a lowball offer. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm like, it was donated. Right? Like it's that old adage of it was donated.
Right.
At least get something for it instead of it sitting on this marketplace for so long. And the lady messaged me and it resonated with me and I get it, right? And she said, just because it's donated doesn't mean that it's worthless, right? And I get that.
Wait. That's the lady's response back to you?
Right.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I threw out a lowball offer. I think I threw out like a $250 offer. And is that lowball? Sure. If you broke it down, I think it was like $16 a cell or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And okay, sure. But at the same time, in my mind,
Right.
it was donated to a store. I'm
Right.
still paying a decent amount for these things that were donated.
Right.
But her response was, just because it's donated, it doesn't mean that it's worthless. And I get that. I understand that. They have overhead. They have to pay their employees. They're a business just like anywhere else.
I mean,
However, I think the USS Flag example, $2,000 for an item that was donated, where if you put it out for 500, it probably would have sold immediately.
right,
you know.
right. You know what's the problem with that statement, Aaron? Is I get it. I get what the lady told you, but the problem with that is that, like, all right, Aaron, me and you, we just don't know about toys. We dabble into everything pop culture, right?
Mhm.
So we have a little bit of knowledge on video games, on toys, comic books, VHS. We collect VHS, cassette tapes, vintage clothing. You know, and I want people to understand that is that, yeah, is our main thing toys? Yeah, but we collect everything pop culture. Doesn't matter what it is. It's whatever we grew up with, a t-shirt, whatever, a VHS thing. And the thing about it is that you have to self-educate yourself on this stuff, whether it's watching YouTube toy hunting videos, watching video game hunting videos, watching VHS. You know, I've been doing this now with you, Aaron, and Dave for the last 5 years. And in the last 5 years, I've learned so much about different toy lines, clothes, video games, because you self-educate yourself. Now, the problem with that statement is just because it's donated doesn't mean it's not worth something. Is that, okay, the employees that work at Savers, Goodwill, or Salvation Army, right? Unless you yourself is a collector. Like, for example, there's a Night of the Living Dead VHS out there that's worth a lot of money, a ton of money, actually. I think it's like a dual pack or something, because there was something behind the scenes with George Romero or something. Unless you know about VHS and unless you know about it, you're not gonna know that that's worth something.
Right.
And I think that's the problem is now with eBay, that's what it is. It's okay. These animation cells, look it up. It's an animation cell. Look it up. It's not that the person knows what that. We know what it is because we're into this stuff. We're nerds. We're into all this stuff. We know what Cam Candy is. We know there used to be a cartoon show. Animation cells. We're gonna go crazy for it, but they're just gonna look it up.
Right.
People that are not into it, they're just gonna look it up. Dude, not for nothing, I've had these conversations with friends of mine, or not even friends of mine, just like acquaintances that don't collect things, and they'll come up to me and be like, "Hey, Steve, I'm trying to sell these turtles. Is this worth something?" And then when I look at the Ninja Turtle toys that they're showing me, they're like from like 2005, 2006. Now, is 2005, 2006 vintage? Technically, yes. It's like 20 something years ago. All right. Technically, yes, it is vintage. But what they don't understand is that it's not as vintage as like the 80s stuff. Because 2006, most of the stuff you can find reasonably, but you can't find like sewer hero turtles, from the 80s all the time. So I don't know. It's this thing where people think that what they have is worth what it is. But Aaron, you brought this up one time on the podcast, is that you make up your own price on eBay. If I say this pen is worth $200, but guess what? Somebody out there is gonna pay $200 for it. Like,
well, or they're not, right? And and that's the adverse thing, because, like I said, I want to say this was at least 2 months ago that I sent them this message, and it's still on there, right? And I mean, part of me wants to send them a message and say, hey, if you want to sell it, I'm still, I would still offer what I offered before.
Right.
But I think if they come back with that mentality of, they think it's worth more, then it's just going to sit there. But again, like, I don't understand that mentality, especially if it's like a charitable organization, because like Goodwill has the online thing, but the in-store thing, every week there's a color that's 50%, right? The reason
Right.
for the reason for that is because they want to move the merchandise, right?
Yep.
They don't want their shelves clogged up with stuff. So every week it's a new color, and that color goes on sale 50%, and then they wipe out that color hopefully that day or that week, and then they move on, right? They have that cycle. But I mean, I feel like when you say this USS flag is $2,000 or this, these animation cells are $600, and you stick with that, and
Right.
there's no budging, there's no offers, there's no nothing, it's not worthless, but then you're not making any money. And frankly, like if I saw something else on this website, I probably would just be like, oh, it's the Salvation Army and wherever. I'm not gonna even ask about it,
Yeah. Oh man, we just went. Oh man, everybody! For those that have listened to our podcast in the past before, you guys know that we'll have topics or we'll go down this. But me and Aaron, we always gonna go down a deep rabbit hole, so deep, man. I don't know. Some of this stuff just gets to me. But let's go to our next topic because this is the main topic that I really want to talk about with you. And this is, Aaron, this is crazy. And this got me excited. And I'm a mask collector. The loyal subjects. And for those of you that know the toy line Loyal Subjects, they've done like Ninja Turtles, they've done Beetlejuice, they've done a lot of different properties and stuff, but they just got a multi-property licensing deal with Hasbro to bring back some of the stuff that us 80s babies grew up with. And it's the 40th anniversary of some of these toy lines. And we're talking about Mask, Jem and the Holograms. Yes, I said Jem and the Holograms. And yes, I'm picking up one of those. And Play School's My Buddy. Oh my God, dude. My Buddy, man. And if you guys have never seen the commercial to My Buddy, dude, when I was a kid and I saw the first Child's Play movie, I was like, I am not buying that toy doll, man. So here's what it is online. I'm reading this. So on February 1st, 2025, Walmart will be releasing Play School's My Buddy. Now, Aaron, you said that you've seen it out there, or some people already have been picking it up in a while. Like,
I've seen somebody buy one already online, and I want them all to burn in hell.
Now, I'm going to look it up because is it exactly the same My Buddy doll from back then?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. I mean, like, I think maybe this dimensions might be a little smaller because the one that I saw was a picture, and he was like, oh, I found one. Like, I didn't even know these were released yet. And I think the scale is a little smaller, but it's still creepy as hell. I want them all to burn. I don't like them.
Yeah, dude, I don't know that. I'm looking, dude, and it's going for $34.99.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 40th anniversary. Oh my God, it's been 40 years. Woo!
Yeah.
Man, I feel old. Oh, man, it's been 40 years since My Buddy. Jesus Christ.
What was it? It was My Buddy and Kid Sister, right?
Kid sister,
Yeah.
Kid sister and me. Oh man. Growing up as a kid, you never forget these songs. These songs are always stuck in your mind, man.
It's the jingles, man. It's the jingles.
Yeah. Now, here's another cool one. And I am super excited about this because I've always wanted this. Aaron, did you know that they're also doing Popples and My Pet Monster?
Well, yeah, I knew. Yeah, the My Pet Monster I think is going to be a huge hit because that is a collector's market that hasn't been tapped into in quite a few years.
Dude, My Pet Monster.
Yeah.
Like, I've always wanted a My Pet Monster, like the original, but they're so hard to find. They're so expensive too, especially if it doesn't come with like the cuffs. Like if it comes with the cuffs, if it comes with the cuffs, it's even more expensive. But the fact that we're gonna get My Pet Monster to release in the fall of 20, dude, I'm getting one of these. I've always wanted one. I'm gonna get a My Pet Monster. And the fact that they're doing Popples, Popples, bro, like what? Like Popples. And if you guys don't know what Popples is, if you wasn't born in the 80s, Popples, they were like these little like fuzzy little like creatures or like half like furry things, and they would just turn into these little like balls. like the Popples. Like, oh man, dude, that is so cool that they're doing that, man. You know, Popples reminds me of what was it? The fossils? The fossils? It was like a bear that was mixed with a bumblebee or something like that. Like,
You
it
must
was.
you must have been on some shrooms back or something. I don't remember anything that turned into a bear into a bumblebee.
There's gotta be. I'm trying to look it up right now. It was half. Oh man,
I
was it?
mean, we all know you like your pillow pets, you know.
Oh, the Wazzles. There we go.
Oh, wuzzles, right?
The Wazzles. It was like animals. There was like a bear that looked like a bumblebee and a purple elephant that was mixed with some. They were just mixed up with different like.
Yeah, but I don't think they
No,
turned like they didn't like fold up or anything.
no, they didn't. It was just the Popples. But I always got the Wazzle with the Popples kind of confused half the times. But yeah, they're doing Popples. But dude, they're doing Mask. And
Mhm.
here's the thing, as I'm reading this right now, so the Mask toy line, it's gonna be the original packaging, the original figures. But from what I'm reading is that they're changing a few things. They're not giving people what it is that they're changing, but dude, I am excited. I already have series one, series two, and Mask is so cool, man. It's such a cool toy line because it's like G.I. Joe mixed with Transformers. Dude, the fact that you have a car, Matt Tracker, and it turns with the gold wings going up and it flies in the air, it is so sick, man. And that theme song to Mask gets me pumped up. Dude, I don't even know what the lyrics are half the time. Mass Crusaders working overtime. Dude, they're working overtime, fighting crime, fighting crime. Like,
You got the lyrics right there.
oh man, I am excited about this. Now, here's the thing, Aaron. I want to ask you this question. We all know that every time they're re-releasing an old toy line from the '80s, a lot of toy collectors are like, "Well, that's gonna bring the prices down to the vintage one."
Yeah.
Do you think that them re-releasing the original packaging, all these mass thing vehicles back, do you think that it's gonna drop down the prices of the vintage toy line?
I think in the short term, yes, because the problem is that um, even when they did the real Ghostbusters, you
Right,
know, the problem is people get confused because once you take them out of the package, right? If they're the same scale or the same size or whatever, it's very hard to differentiate, you know, unless you're a toy collector, that
right.
this is a night because if you Google image it, it's going to give you the 1980s version most
Yep,
likely, not the new version, right? And
exactly.
so I feel like when they made the real Ghostbusters like the same size, and you know there was very minor adjustments made with the accessories and the I think that kind of deterred collectors from buying them unless it was unless they could confirm that it was a vintage one with the vintage accessories and all this other stuff. I don't mind them re-releasing toys, but they need to make a variation or like add a different color or do something different to
Right,
differentiate the new toy line from the old toy line. That way, the prices, because I think Real Ghostbusters, when they released even the Fright Features line, those all took a hit,
yeah,
in price because I felt like people were afraid to buy the old one because they were thinking that they were going to get a new one or they didn't know the difference or they couldn't tell the difference.
yeah. Yeah, this is a great topic. So when they re-released the real Ghostbuster figures, a lot of toy collectors were like, "Well, there goes the prices." But we found out that the proton pack pegs in the back weren't the same.
Right.
So that was the difference. It was the little hole. If you guys remember the Kenner Real Ghostbuster figures, they had the little hole in the back with the pegs. So I guess the re-release ones were different. And same thing with the re-release of the Technodrome. So, for those of you that don't know, Playmates has been re-releasing all the turtle figures over and over again. They just re-released the Technodrome. And the funny thing is that this Technodrome is 5 inches or 3 inches smaller than the original Technodrome. Pixel Dan did a review on it, and it's so small that if you put your original turtles, they're too big.
Right.
They're too big. So my question is with the mass re-releases is, okay, they're telling us that it's the original packaging. They're telling us that it's the original vehicles with the figures with some minor changes. So are they saying that maybe they're not chrome tires like they used to? Maybe they're not real rubber tires? Maybe they're adding something different? That's what I'm curious to find out.
But here's the issue with that is that let's say somebody's getting into the hobby, right? Let's say they're not. Let's say they don't already have mask figures. Let's just say they want to collect mask figures because they're getting into it. They see one of these new boxes on the shelf. They're like, "Wow, I didn't even know this toy line existed. Let me do a deep dive into this toy line." Right? Well, if they don't know those little nuances, right? Like if you didn't know that the peg hole in the back of the real Ghostbusters figure was this or that. Yes, there's copyright dates on most things nowadays. You just have to look for it. Yes, but with that being said, and again, another tangent, G.I. Joe, if you're a G.I. Joe collector, they reuse the molds, right? So the copyright stamp on some newer G.I. Joe figures might have said 1987 or might have said 1988 or 1989 when that figure was released in 92, but it was a different paint scheme. They use the same mold, but it's a different paint scheme. But like if you go on Yo Joe or whatever, if all you were looking at was the date, it can get confusing because then you go, oh, well, this figure was released in 1987, and you look at the 1987 list of G.I. Joe figures, and you're like, that's not there. Where the hell is it? And then, oh, well, that's version 4. It was a repaint released in 1992. Well, unless you know that, right? And unless you could figure that out, I didn't buy, well, I should say, I bought the re-release of the real Ghostbusters. I didn't open them. I don't know what stamp they used on them. If they used the same exact mold, they may have still had that 1986, 1987 stamp on it, right? And if that's the case, then people collecting or going deep dive say, oh, I want to collect this stuff again. They might get bamboozled and then be like, well, how am I supposed to know the difference? And then, oh, well, let me do a deep dive on the internet and go, oh, well, the peg hole's different on the back, right? But the average collector isn't going to know that.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, Aaron. Yeah. And what did I say earlier? Self-education. I think that's why the more you get into like any hobby, like for example, we've spoken about Toy Federation. If you guys haven't seen the Toy Federation show, it's great. I mean, like I've been learning a lot just by watching these guys doing deals and him explaining like a bunch of stuff. Like, for example, I don't know a lot about Star Wars toys, but there's been a lot of episodes on Toy Federation where he gets these toy lots of Star Wars. He's like, oh, well, this is missing this, and this is missing that, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm learning a lot about this. But yeah, like you said, if you didn't know about the real Ghostbusters in the pack in the back, and you go and you buy one and you think that it's the vintage one, and then you come to find out you've been bamboozled and it's not like a vintage one, then yeah, I can see that. I'm excited. I'm just curious to see what it is that they're changing on these mask toys, because when they first came out in the 80s, remember, the first line had the masks that were just like, they just came on. They didn't have that extension.
Yeah. I was gonna say that all of them came off, but it was it became a choking hazard.
A choking hazard, and it was like kind of like the extension one is like when you put the mask on, it had almost like a bib coming down of the mask, almost like a little bib. Yeah, so if you guys have those figures, those are the ones that got changed for the choking hazard. I think the ones that come with the original mask are a little bit more expensive.
And it's
Uh,
only Series 1.
Yeah, it's only Series 1. Yeah.
But I mean, it's the short mask versus the long
Right.
mask. And I mean, the price for the mask is not expensive. I mean, well, I say that, but it doesn't, the vehicles didn't change, the figures didn't change.
Right.
It was just the mask. And I don't think the box or packaging changed at all.
No.
It was just that. So, I mean, yeah, if you really like wanted to be a completionist, you could go back and buy the short mask version and then buy the long mask version, so you had both versions of it. But I mean, I think going back to the original question of like, is the price going to drop? I think the price is going to drop a little bit, but I think if anything, it might reinvigorate the rest of the line. So let's say for the Thunderhawk, right? If that's what they're going to release first,
Right.
I feel like that might go down because people are going to be like, why do I want to buy? Why should I buy a vintage one when I can just buy a new one that's the same, right?
Yeah.
But if they're not gonna, I don't think they're gonna release all of them. I know G.I. Joe released a Matt Tracker figure, like a 3 3/4 inch figure, not a small. What are they? 1.5, 2 inch figures.
I actually ended up picking up that figure, the G.I. Joe Matt Tracker one. Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping that G.I. Joe with that kind of crossover would then try to make a Thunderhawk in that 3 3/4 inch scale.
I'm surprised. That would be so amazing. I'm surprised they haven't done that, Aaron.
Well,
I don't understand that.
I don't know if it just flopped or people didn't get it because it's mask, and I know they've tried other crossovers in the past, but
Right.
I mean, currently it's G.I. Joe and Transformers, and that seems to be going well. But and the vehicles there are a little bit bigger in size, but I think they if they would have done a Matt Tracker with a Thunderhawk, I think that would have kind of reinvigorated it back then, because I think that came out in 2008.
Yeah, you're talking about the G.I. Joe Matt Tracker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was 2008. Yeah, and I ended up picking up that figure on eBay super cheap. I think I got it for like $18.99. The guy was selling it for. It wasn't even that expensive. I'm very curious just because I'm a Mask fan, and I think you're right, Aaron. I don't think that Loyal Subjects. Now that would be crazy though, if they do all of them.
Yeah,
That would be crazy, and if they do Boulder Hill, because they got the license. Now, for how many years did they get the license? I don't know, but
right.
for them to do all of them, that would be insane. Would be.
I think what would be interesting is if they maybe release some new vehicles. I think that is the better way to reinvigorate a line, is if you say, okay, yep, we know about all these vehicles, we know about all these play sets, but you know what? We're going to make a new vehicle that fits in with the vintage.
Right.
If you took I don't know, let's say a modern, I mean, they had a Lamborghini. I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, I know everybody's going to, like a Cybertruck, right? If you took a Cybertruck and made that into a mask vehicle,
Dude,
or something like that.
Insane. Here,
right,
take
or just a Tesla, right?
Like
something. Or I'm trying to think of a newer, like a Hummer.
Right.
Okay. Let's turn a Hummer into a mask vehicle.
Oh, dude, that will be Aaron, you already know I'm gonna give my money for that. Just you say
right. But that's a way to reinvigorate a line. Yes, is it cool to bring back this nostalgia bomb and say, all right, we're gonna bring back the Thunderhawk and it's gonna be the same scale and the same packaging. Are we excited as mask collectors, as vintage toy collectors? Sure. But if they came back and said, okay, now we piqued your interest, we're going to come out with 5 new vehicles that fit the same scale, the same thing, transform into cool stuff, I think that would be like an oh shit moment, you know?
Oh man, that you just popped my cherry with that. Oh man, that would be amazing. You know what it is, Aaron, too, is that like back then the engineering for those masks, like think about it. Like
Yeah.
the hood went up. Then underneath the hood, this thing. Then you have the split seconds. It's like for the toy engineers to come up with these ideas and make sure that and so I've seen some YouTube videos of guys like taking apart the mass vehicles, just fixing them up and just the engineering that went through all that. Like it's crazy. Like okay, this pops off, and then when this pops off, this turns into a motorcycle. So
Mhm.
it's like you said, taking a Tesla or Cybertruck and looking at it and be like, okay, let's engineer something cool out of this. That would be amazeballs. Like that would be cool. That would be cool if they do that.
Yeah, and I feel like Transformers has done that good job of that. You know, they've taken, I mean, obviously they have the movies to kind of help them with their marketing,
Right.
but, they've taken modern vehicles and turned them into, Transformers. And I don't know. I mean, like, obviously cost comes down to it. Production cost and where that production is going to happen now. I mean, I know we talked offline and we don't need to get political at all, but
Right.
this kind of state of everything with the tariffs and the, where toys are going to be manufactured. I mean, it would be amazing if toy companies came back to the U.S. like GI Joe, right? GI Joe was homegrown here in
Right.
Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and it would be amazing to have such a big powerhouse toy company back here in the States, but odds of that happening, who knows, right? I
Right.
mean,
Right.
again, this isn't a political podcast, but Steve and I offline were talking about toy prices, and are toy prices going to go up? Are they going to go down? Or how is that going to tie in? But in order to, like you said, to produce these toys, it costs money, right? And ultimately, they want to make money, but I feel like they would make more money if they released a new version of an old toy line instead of re-releasing a toy that was already produced. Like if instead of doing the real Ghostbusters, if they made a Boogeyman, or they made a Sam Hain, or they made
Right. Right.
different
Right.
ghosts to go with the toys that you already had, I feel like that would have just been such a better use of the money and the production than reinvigorating toys that were already made.
You know what, Aaron? It's like I know. It's like I agree with you, but you know what it is? Is that toy collector's mindset? It's like, for example, I have Kenneroo Ghostbusters toys, the original ones. You have Kenneroo Ghostbusters toys, the original ones, right? And Diamond Select, going back to Mondo, Diamond Select already re-released. They already made their own real Ghostbuster figures, but now Mondo's coming up with their own version, right? And okay, yeah, it's Peter Bateman. Does he look cool? Yes, but like you said, Sam Hain, you're getting all these other ghosts that you never. I think you're right. I think if toy companies are getting these licenses for these old cartoon shows, this old pop culture stuff that we grew up with, for example, and I'm just saying this, I'm not saying that this is happening, but let's say Jice and the Wheel Warriors, right? Some obscure toy line. What if they just took like figures that were never made, like you said, and
Yeah.
just do those, or gummy bears from Disney. They come out, but hey, here's some stuff that never came out before. And I think was it you collect Foo Fighters? There was somebody, the Foo Fighters refrigerator playset never came out, but there was
Right.
a third party person that actually made the playset.
Yeah, he
Um,
3D printed it, and
right, right.
yeah,
It's stuff like that, stuff, and I agree with you 100%. But you know what it is? It's that FOMO, that fear of missing out. I think as toy collectors, you're like, oh, I gotta get this. If I don't get this, the prices are gonna go up, man. And I don't know. I know lately for me, I do I love turtles? Yes, but I kind of held back on collecting all this because it's just so much turtles and Motu stuff. Motu means Masters of the Universe, man. There's just so much. There's Masters of the Universe Origins, Masterverse, Revelations. Now you got the crossovers with the wrestlers, with the TMNT, and now they're doing the crossovers with the Thundercats. It's like, how much He-Man do you want, man?
Yeah.
Like, it's just so much of the same stuff over and over again. Give us stuff that has never come out, man. So, but am I excited about Mask? I'm excited about Mask.
Yeah.
Am I gonna spend some money on it? Yeah, I'm gonna spend some money on it, but I'm just hoping to see like what it is that they're gonna give us. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll give some of the listeners some of the dates here again if you guys didn't hear. So I'm scrolling here right now. So let me look at some of these dates. Again, they're saying here February 1st, My Buddy, Gem and the Holograms. That's gonna be like the first of the toy lines coming out, and then Mask will be released this summer, 2025.
Yeah.
And they will replicate the original. So Mask is this summer, and then in the fall you're gonna get the Popples and My Pet Monster. So right now is My Buddy, Gem and the Holograms. Summertime is Mask, and then fall time Popples and My Pet Monster. So,
one thing that I want to mention though with the My Pet Monster is
Yeah.
if it's the same scale, right?
right,
Going back to that copyright stamp, there needs to be a way to
Right.
differentiate the new handcuffs to the vintage handcuffs.
Mm,
There needs to be some sort of mark on
Right.
those handcuffs, or it needs to be a completely different size or something, or have a different logo on it. Because one of the things that I don't want to see happen
right,
is people taking off those handcuffs from the My Pet, the new release of the My Pet Monster, and
Right.
pawning and throwing them in the dirt, or weathering them, or making them look older, and then trying to pawn them off as vintage cuffs from the My Pet Monster.
mm, mm. Man.
Because we know how much those handcuffs are and
Right.
how hard they are to find. I'm sure the tag on the new My Pet Monster will be completely different, because
Right.
most stuffed animal releases will have a modern tag on it that says, it was, produced in 2025 versus 1980, whatever. But the one thing is I would hope that the cuffs have some sort of, I would like it if they're a completely different color, that way that you're not running into that issue.
You know what, Aaron? Yeah, I hope they do something like that, because again, I'm gonna mention Toy Federation. I was just watching an episode. He got a Star Wars lot, and the guy that came in with the lot had original weapons from the vintage toy line, and then he had duplicate weapons that somebody made and sold on eBay. And the crazy thing about it, they're holding both weapons, and I'm like, what's the difference? I'm like, I can't tell the difference. And you can only tell the difference when you're holding them in your hands.
Yeah.
That's the difference. One feels a little bit more stronger, like it can break, which is the vintage one, and the other one feels a little bit kind of heavy. But they looks the same. It looks the same. So yeah, unless they put a marking on it, like a copyright date on the cuffs or something. And again, this goes to the problem where stuff gets re-released. People want to go bamboozle other people saying that it is a vintage and it's not a vintage. We're getting Turtles. We're getting He-Man. We're getting Mask. We're getting all this stuff again. And it's just like, you really got to do a lot of self-education nowadays, especially, like I'm going to turn 43 years old, man. And, I'm buying a lot of this stuff. I'm into modern and I'm into vintage. And sometimes I collect modern stuff that's coming out again, that's vintage. And it is hard sometimes to differentiate on what's what, man.
Mhm.
So again, guys, everybody that's listening to this, just self-educate yourself. Go online, go on YouTube, listen to podcasts about toys, pop culture, just anything in general. Just listen to it, self-educate yourself. I don't know everything about everything. That's why there's me, there's Aaron, there's Dave. We will learn from one another. I've been learning about Pokemon. Next podcast, we're going to talk about this Pokemon convention that I went to because this was insane.
It's tomorrow again.
Oh, and it is tomorrow again. We don't have enough time to talk about it on this show. But on the next show, that's what I want to talk about because that had an eye-opener with guys carrying these Pelican briefcases holding thousands of money worth of Pokemon cards. That was crazy. But anyways, we'll get back to that on the next show. But man, Aaron, for us coming back today, and we've been going for a while, and I'm just happy that we're back and we're talking about all this stuff. And man, it just feels good to talk about all this nerd stuff, man. And I'm glad that we're back on the show. And I told Aaron, hey, it's Friday, February 7th. Let's start off with a bang. We went on some tangents, but my main thing is talking about loyal subjects today and talking about all this stuff. There was some movie news that I want to talk about. Fantastic Four trailer came out. I want to save that for the next show because I have a lot of stuff to say about that. Because we're into movies, and it's one thing. I love movies. Aaron loves movies too. But I want to talk about the Pokemon convention, Fantastic Four trailer, and the Final Destination Bloodlines trailer. Aaron, did you see that?
I have not seen either of those, so it'll give me some homework to do for the next one.
Oh man. Okay. Fair warning. Do not have anything to drink when you watch the Final Destination Bloodlines trailer.
All right.
I'm just warning you right now. That thing is crazy. And with that said, Aaron, is there anything you want to tell our folks listening right now before we get off this show?
No, I think we've said enough. I mean, this has been a good show. It's good to be back. It's good to be talking. And an hour and a half later and a few deep dives into some random stuff we didn't have listed. And that's a typical show here on CBPP.
CBPP. And for those of you listening right now, welcome back to the Cereal Box Price Podcast, the podcast that serves you 3 scoops of pop culture. Guys, find us on Anchor.fm. I'm going to be posting this episode. I should be editing it this weekend. It should be out on Sunday. Definitely on Sunday it should be out. I'm going to post it on the YouTube page also. So if you guys go on Anchor.fm, just type Cereal Box Price Podcast or just Google Cereal Box Price Podcast. It'll come out. You'll see everywhere that podcasts are being hosted. We'll be there. Check us out, man. I'm just glad to be back. I'm glad to be back with Aaron. Guys, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about this upcoming year. There's so many movies coming out this summer. Superman. I want to talk about Superman. So many toys coming out. I am having a nerdgasm in my pants right now. There's just so much stuff, man. I love being with my friend Aaron. And Aaron, with that said, take us out with I don't know, say something to everybody before we get out of here. Something, anything.
You put me on the spot. I can't do it like you. Buy Mahoney.
Hey, you know what? And with that said, he said, buy Mahoney and don't forget to eat your macaroni. And this is the Cereal Box Price Podcast.